Hello, everyone. Welcome to my talk. The title of this talk is Overcoming, crossed out, Making Space for Inner Barriers to Success Through the Lens of Parenting and Attachment. I would like to start off with a story. The story is about a prince who becomes a master archer. The prince excels to such a point that he believes he's the finest archer in the world. On his journey homeward, the prince stops in a small town to get something to drink. Across from the tavern, the prince sees a barn with painted targets along the entire side. And there is a single arrow dead in the center of each target on the barn. How could such a master archer be living in this small town? Thought the prince. He searched for this boy. Finally, the prince sees the young boy and asks him. The boy says, "It was me." "Show me," demands the prince. So they stand. The boy takes aim. The boy hits the side of the barn, far away from any of the targets. Then the boy runs into the barn. He emerges with a brush and a can of paint. He paints a solid circle around the arrow he has just shot, then two more circles to form the target. "That's how I do it," said the boy. "First I shoot the arrow, and then I paint the target." Now, this story is sometimes is as much for me as it is for my audience. But why do I start off with it? Because it's my invitation for you to be that boy to with this, to really shoot your arrows and know that where they're shooting, you will know where they're going to end up. And the work of drawing the targets around it will come afterwards. So the title of this talk is Overcoming, crossed out, Making Space for Inner Barriers to Success Through the Lens of Parenting and Attachment. First of all, why not overcoming? To overcome is to defeat, to succeed, or to overpower. This suggests a battle coming towards. It suggests that these barriers are nuisance variables and have no right to be on our path to success. This makes sense, really. We all know that it would not be useful to hold on to a belief, for instance, that I'm not good enough, or that the fear of being visible, when we have our own goals or things to be our own business pursuits. My invitation, and it's part of the reason I chose this title, is to invite you to shift this perspective from the very common, at least from what I see, overcoming, to what would be making more space for. And we'll go into that as the talk goes on. So why should we shift this lens? So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Joe. I live in the UK, in the countryside, not far from London. I've worked therapeutically with both children, families, and adults for the last 10 years, as well as teaching, and now work mainly with adults, families, as a therapist, and do some mentoring for children and teenagers. In 2012, I quit my job as a teacher without much thought, but knowing that I wanted to work for myself, and I wanted to follow my own goals, my own pursuits, and to see what unfolded for me. And since then, I've been what would call it in the UK self-employed, offering this therapy, mentoring, and parent type coaching. There would have been plenty of times in my going back when I would have had the mindset of overcoming difficult things in life and business, but the older I get, the more I've shifted to the making space, and this is what we're going to explore. So what does parenting have to do with business? Well, not much really. In many ways, not much at all. But on a deeper level, it's the same beliefs that show up. Now, I'm assuming what you know what I mean when I say beliefs, but here are some examples. When whenever you've done something, or you're embarking on a pursuit or something, maybe you get triggered with something, and we have this kind of the belief show up that I'm not good enough, I can't change, I'm unlovable, I'm not important, I can't say no, it's not my fault, it's not okay to ask for help, and my needs are not important. These are just some. The list is exhaustible, not exhaustible, sorry. So it will go, sometimes you have your own definitions of one which come in, they might feed into a bigger one, but there's lots out there, and I'm sure you might notice some of them for yourself. They show up everywhere. The two that come up for me when I was asked to give this presentation, or when I'm asked to do something like that, be I'm not good enough, and I'm not important. And they might show up with this stuff more like, what I have to say has no importance, or what I have to do is not going to be good enough. But when you come down to it, they're the same beliefs that show up in parenting. I'm not good enough and I'm not important. Now these will get triggered in us all the time. They show up lots of times for me, and if my aim were to overcome them, then I would still be losing today, because it showed up again for this presentation. They still show up. Changes, but it shows up. This is not to say that overcoming is a bad thing necessarily. It's just the way I look at it. So if, let's say, they weren't showing up anymore, great. The thing that I'm interested in here is that the way I look at it is it's like fruit on a tree. It will come. It will come spontaneously and naturally. That overcoming will just happen, but it's not something to start off with. Maybe one day that will happen for me, and I would have overcome the belief. Maybe not. Maybe my relationship will just change with it over time, and it will just still keep showing up. We'll have to find out. But what is important is that this is not the goal. It's not something to learn. It's not something that can be taught like that fruit. It's something that will happen naturally and spontaneously in the right conditions. So what can I do when I notice these beliefs? That's the question that people always ask. What can I do? Well, we're not going to address that yet. And I really don't want to address that, but I will at the end part. And I think you'll see why. A more important question for me is, who are you when you notice those beliefs? Who are you when you notice those beliefs? Are you a person who makes sense of the beliefs? Are you a person who overcomes them? Are you a person who makes space for them? Are you a person who has no space for them? Are you the person that greets them? Are you a person that is frustrated with them? As a therapist over the years, one thing you notice is that the beliefs are there for a very good reason. One of my favorite teachers, Gabor Mate, influential speaker, author in Canada, he would say that these beliefs served us at some point in our past. An example, and let me just read out what he would say. As children, we had two choices. The adults are bad, evil, stupid, or two, there's something wrong with me. Which is the safer choice for the child? There is something wrong with me, because maybe there is something we can do about it. This was for survival in childhood. The current situation is past survival showing up in the present moment. So there's an example of a belief. There's something wrong with me. This jumble of traits and adopted coping styles is what we are most likely to bring to the table in all our ventures. And the more meaningful and important they are to us, the more likely they are to show up. So what might your traits be? What might your let's try something, and kind of an experiential task. So first of all, find a belief that you might resonate with. I'm not good enough. I can't change. I'm unlovable. I'm not important. I can't say no. It's my fault. It's not okay to ask for help. My needs are not important. Take your time with this, and I'll slow down a bit. So think back to a time when you experienced that belief. It doesn't have to be a big life event. It can be small. Any time when you had an emotional reaction to that belief and it stayed with you today. And once you found it, just let it be there. One of my favorite child developmental psychologists, Gordon Neufeld, uses the words, all children need the invitation to exist in our presence. So here you're inviting this part of you to exist in our presence now, and let it be there. Notice the sensations. Notice them with curiosity. If the emotion was in your body, where would it be? Put your attention on that body part. And notice that journey. So we'll come out of that task a bit. How was that? And what did you notice? Just sit with those two questions for a minute. How was that? And what did you notice? So why an attachment lens when we're looking at beliefs, when we're looking at our business goals, our business pursuits? So why look through the lens of attachment and parenting? One of the things that we do as parents, I believe, is very simply, we become the answer to our children's needs. We may not know how to at the time. We may not know what we're doing. We may be in at the deep end. This could be very new territory for us, especially with our first ones. But we take on that responsibility to become the answer. There's great safety in this energy. Someone is out there looking over me. So this is my invitation for you all in your relationship with this belief. As you're making space for it, find it in you to become that parental, I can be the answer to this. How can you bring that energy and let them show up just as we would let our children show up. And the what to do's. We'll get to the what to do's. What to do with these beliefs? Well, let me just share my experience of what I do with them. Giving this talk, for example. I used to be a teacher in a school, so I've been used to talking to groups of children before, but whenever I'm talking to more adults, even though this isn't live, they might show up a bit more if this was live. That is something, these show up for me. So 2 beliefs: I'm not good enough, what I say doesn't have, isn't important or isn't valuable, doesn't have value. Well, there are 2 ways that I could go when these show up. One way would be that I identify myself with these beliefs. To identify means to make the same as. So I make them who I am, and they get tied up into my personality. Who am I? I am giving this talk as someone really identified as not being good enough. I am a person who's not good enough giving this talk, or I am a person with no value giving this talk. What must that be like? Well, the chemistry in my body would be completely different. I could stay in my thoughts. How to overcome this? I could practice some strategies that I might have picked up in the year, or maybe I'll fake it to make it, or breathe, or positive affirmations. But that's surface level battles for the overcoming. It might work, but what's really going on is much deeper here. So I might experience some relief and be able to get through it, but that belief is still underlying, it's still there. My heart rate might be up. I could be tense. I might start to cough. Compose myself. Yes, maybe I could do that. What would it mean to compose, to make something up? So my identity is still wrapped up in these beliefs, but I'm being someone new that can sit on top of it. The one that I hope that everyone will see. Well, great, yeah. Maybe that can be that might look good, and it might allow you to do a great presentation, but you're also going to lose the parts of you, really the innermost parts, which it's a trade-off, and you might want those parts. So you can see how this might keep going and going and going, and then eventually I would just be relieved when it's all over, and hopefully I can come back to myself, and I might be in a different environment, and the beliefs maybe might not show up there, and I can be myself again. The other way is that I can make space for them and just notice, oh look, here's that belief showing up again. Always shows up for me when I'm talking in groups. Let's make space for it, let it be there. Or I notice what happens in my body. I become the answer to it. What does it need? Let me just give it some attention. Give him that invitation to exist. Maybe he's shown up working for that same survival need again that it started off with. Do I need to survive still? Or am I okay? Well, maybe I'm okay doing this talk. So great. Thanks for showing up. But it's not about survival here now. I'm just sharing some of the things that I've learned over the years which might be useful in business. Do you see the difference in the relationship? Now, when I said it was one of two experiences, normally mine is a mixture of these two. So it will kind of, it might flow between the two. But what I noticed when I really give these beliefs my attention in this way, and that's the kind of attention with curiosity, with compassion, with this really welcoming energy, then it's a huge difference to who I am when I'm doing things. There's a poem you might know, which I'll end with. It's called The Guest House by Rumi. And it's just a wonderful poem that gives, that shows this energy that I would invite you to have. The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be cleaning you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. In parenting, when we do this, it allows for access to the far more deeper levels of who we really are. In business, it might allow you to bring your authenticity more. to whatever ventures that you are pursuing. You'll find your resourcefulness here. You're much more likely to find your resilience here come more naturally. And imagine if no one shows up to watch this talk at all. It's going to be much easier to handle when I'm not in the process of identifying with that belief. I'm not good enough. And that's the end of my talk. So thank you for coming. My name is Joe Atkinson. If you want to find out more about what I do, I have a website, www.joeatkinson.co.uk. And any questions, please feel free to get in touch. I'd be very happy to hear from you. Thank you very much, and goodbye.